Welcome back to the Evan Phillips Show, guys. Today we're going to be talking about debt and mentality, since I think they both go hand in hand. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this video. All right, guys, so as you just heard, we are going to be talking about debt today, and I'm going to introduce four different kinds of debt. We're going to talk about unsecured, secured, revolving, and mortgages. Also, in the beginning, I mentioned mentality, since that's really one of the biggest portions in dealing with debt, or in my opinion, anything in life. Really, you have to think about things and develop a mentality towards them. So, one thing I really kind of just want to talk about is when you think about the way you buy things, decisions that you make, whether it's to get into a new vehicle or to put something on a credit card. What's your mentality when you're doing that? For example, let's just talk about a credit card. So if you guys were to put $500 on a credit card, is your goal to pay that off by the next month? Or is it, well, I can kind of get around to that and make some payments towards that to get it paid down to zero. So this is really important to talk about, because your mentality will guide you through whether you like it or not, uh, going into debt. So what you really want to do is develop a mentality that has a system in place to help you make those decisions. So I like to think about it as if it's your own money. So let's say you've got $100 in your bank account and you're going to use your credit card. Just really try to think about that as if it were your, because technically it is, it's just your money in the bank that you're going to use for that transaction. So if you're going to spend $40 and you've got $40 in the bank, just for the scenario, we're going to make the numbers easy. You're going to spend what you have, So when people get into trouble is when their mentality is, oh, I'll pay it back, or I will get to it. So this is a dangerous thing because it can lead you into debt. So developing a mentality around these things is super important in the way that you deal and you make your decisions, and the way that you think about things. So that's, I'd say, I don't want to say that's the most important thing, but it's really close up there with other things of importance. So developing that mentality on how you view yourself and you view debt, how you view credit cards, you need to view those as, it's not your money unless it's within the means that you have to spend. So really just work on those internal things of developing those kinds of habits, and that's going to assist you guys in becoming more financially responsible. Now, let's go into these things here. So I said secured, unsecured, revolving, and mortgages. So let's just talk about secured and unsecured first. So the difference between these two, let's start with a secured loan, right? So a secured loan would be something that secures a loan, right? So for an example, an auto loan would be a secured loan because you've secured the vehicle with the loan. So these have a tendency to be less risky. And the reason is, when you're in a secured loan, for example, let's say that you take out $20,000 to purchase a car and you don't make payments on it. Well, it's a secured loan, so they can come and repossess that vehicle and resecure that vehicle, which will, they can auction that off or sell it. There's a tangible item attached to that loan that is retrievable by a bank or a lender or whoever lent you the money to purchase that thing. So the fact that they can get this back makes it a little less risky for them. So a secured loan is definitely something that is, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. It's something that is going to be less risky. You're going to see better interest rates around those types of loans typically, because it is secured with a tangible item. Now, let's talk about something that's unsecured. So an example of an unsecured loan would be something like a credit card or a student loan or a personal loan or just a line of credit. Anything like that. So there's no tangible item attached to that, right? So, if this institution lends you $10,000, there isn't anything that they could go and repossess to get money back or to sell off or to kind of even that out. So these are riskier products. They're typically a little bit higher interest rates on those types of loans, and it's something that I wouldn't say is necessarily a bad thing, but just understand that the type of loan that this is a little bit more risky. So you're going to typically have less favorable terms on these types of loans. Now, the third item on the list is revolving debt. So revolving, if you guys remember the previous video that I made, was in regards to revolving lines of credits and things like that. So a revolving debt is anything like a credit card, where you can use it, pay it off, and have access to it again. For example, home equity line of credit would be a revolving line, a revolving debt as well. So that's something that you can use, pay back, back and forth. It's revolving, like a revolving door. Think about it like that. Now, these are, I think, pretty good ways to maybe accomplish something, like earn rewards or use to build something in your backyard, or whatever it is that you want to accomplish financially. Now, a mortgage is a very common thing. Most people who have bought a home or have owned a home have typically had a mortgage. So this is a debt as well, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad debt because it's something that is going to pay you back. So for example, I own a property and we've owned it for about 5 to 6 years plus. And if we sell it right now, we could walk away with a nice chunk of money. So this is pretty good debt because it's something that is appreciating, and you're also going to reap the benefits of selling it and earning back the equity. Not only that you've paid into it, but that it's also increased. So that's a great debt to have. Now, I want to talk about those people who are looking to reduce some of the debt that they have. Obviously, I don't think credit card debt or going into student loan debt or personal loan debt or any of these sort of things are good. So I think there's always a way to get out of that. But once again, this goes right back to the mentality, guys, we talked about in the beginning. You're going to have to get to a point where it's something that you want to accomplish, and you're going to have to change your mentality about how you go about doing this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is develop a plan of attack, I call it. So you're going to want to define specific things that you want to do. For example, I would say start with looking at where you hold your most debt, right? For a lot of people, it's credit cards. So you could say, well, I've got 5 credit cards, so start there. Once you narrow that down, I would start looking for the credit card that's going to have the larger balance with the most interest rate, the highest interest rate. And you can start making additional principal payments. The first thing I would tell you, though, before you even get into start paying these items off, is to not open any new credit cards or lines of credit or establish any new debt. So the first thing you want to do is just have that mentality. I'm not going to dig myself any deeper into this hole of debt because I want to get out of it, right? So that's the mentality you're going to have. So as you start to attack these and making additional principal payments, and I don't want to go too fast here, so I do want to point out, because I've spoken to many people throughout my career in finance, and some people don't understand the difference of principal and interest, right? They may just make an additional payment towards their credit card every month and say, well, I'm paying extra on it, and it's just taking me a long time. So if you just make a regular payment, in a lot of cases, guys, you're just paying interest sooner. So you really want to make a separate payment to principal. It's called a principal-only payment. So the principal is what you actually owe instead of interest, which is what the bank is charging you for carrying the balance. So you definitely have to make that regular monthly payment. That does include interest, yes. You have to make that payment because that's what you agree to with the terms of most credit cards. But what you can do is you can, like I said, make that additional principal payment that will allow you to reduce what you actually owe. So I would start with doing that. Dedicate a certain amount of money towards that card and pay it off month by month. In addition to that, you're going to want to take some other things that maybe you don't need, other accounts that you're paying for, subscriptions, and just take that money and put it towards that debt. So I think this is a good plan of action. You have to develop your own plan, but this is one thing that you could start doing to help yourself get out of this credit card debt. So this is really, I think, a good plan for those people who have some high interest credit cards out there, or store cards, or whatever it is you might have, to just start paying off some of that debt. So, I'm going to continue to preach mentality on this, guys, because really, honestly, it's just about how you think. Change the way you think about, what you're going to spend. Don't anticipate your paycheck coming and then, well, I got a little extra money coming, so I'm going to pay that off. Don't anticipate money in the future. Think about what you have today, what you owe today, and start paying those down. Think about in the future, because this is not just a thing where you want to get out of debt to go right back into debt. You have to change your mentality about everything financial. I would also recommend just to get to a point where you do some research in regards to saving money or developing a plan. Really analyze your spending, analyze your monthly liabilities, what you have to pay for, and then things that you could potentially reduce or eliminate. So some things, for example, that you need are electricity, water, gas if you have gas, utilities. But even within those, right, you can start to curb some of that. Try to turn your lights off. Don't leave lights on in the room. And I know this might sound really picky, but it's going to help you reduce some of those things that you need, right? And then we can talk about other things that are just not needs, right? Like subscriptions, and it could be a magazine subscription that you receive monthly in the mail. Who still gets magazines? I don't know. I don't. Most people do stuff online, but I'm pretty sure there are some people who do get magazines. Or Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, etc., guys. So really examine where you're spending. Take some time, take out a notepad, write down everything that you owe monthly, and then just go down that list and identify first those things you can completely eliminate. And then after you've eliminated those items and you have just the necessities, find ways to reduce the costs on those. And the reason you want to do this, once again, is to, number one, develop that mentality to save and to reduce, because you're going to need those funds to pay those extra payments towards your principal your principal on your credit cards or lines of credit or whatever else it is that you owe out there. So really take this to heart, guys. You can get out of debt. Don't feel discouraged like it's just something you have to live with. It is not. You can get out of debt. There are some advanced programs for people who are just in a world of debt, and they may need some additional professional assistance. But I think this can really be a universal way for most people to try and eliminate and get out of debt and continue that mentality after you've gotten out of debt to stay afloat. So I want to teach you guys how to do that. And then, yes, I do want you to be able to use credit cards after all this is done, but in a way that is beneficial for you. And I want you to be able to utilize loans with the smarts to make good decisions with them. So you can make these things work for you. You just have to understand how they work with you and how they work against you. That's really what it comes down to, guys. So I hope that this video helps someone who is looking to get out of debt. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave those questions in the comments below. As always, I'll be more than glad to answer those. Thank you guys once again for watching this episode of The Evan Phillips Show, and have a great day.